Amidst the howling gale outside, the ancient Wuthering Heights manor awoke in a furious rage. The doors rattled, the roof tiles groaned like the laments of imprisoned souls. A bitter cold wind seeped through the cracks. Through the lashing rain, a white figure materialized outside the window, tearing its way in. It clutched the hand of the new visitor and recounted the festering resentment of years that clung to the Wuthering Heights. This is the ominous, chilling, and mesmerizing style characteristic of Wuthering Heights Emily Brontë's classic novel. The work tells a story of intense yet dark love, where love doesn't redeem but instead becomes the genesis of tragedy. Yet, amidst these layers of gloom, we can pause to examine the invisible bonds and silken threads that tie us down in relationships. The love story in the novel mirrors real-life individuals who allow themselves to love, but not to let go. The tighter you cling, the deeper you sink. What is called passionate love followed by suffering is ultimately just a cycle, a lesson for those who endlessly wander in their own unresolved emotions. You can love someone deeply, but don't love too absolutely. One winter, the old master of Wuthering Heights returned home with a surprise gift for his children. When the gift was revealed, everyone was astonished. It was a ragged, wandering orphan child. From that day on, the boy became a new member of the family and was named Heathcliff. At the sight of this uninvited guest, the eldest son, Hindley, reacted with furious defiance. He feared the newcomer would steal his father's affection, which was originally his. Only his younger sister, Catherine, opened her heart and welcomed him. She was free-spirited, mischievous, and stubborn. Though she had been the princess of the house since childhood, Catherine didn't care about Heathcliff's low status, nor did she care about others' opinions when playing with the wild, dark-haired boy. The two children often snuck away from the manor, running to the vast fields to bask in the sun, listen to the wind, smell the grass, and watch the swaying trees. Together, they felt the mysterious and untamed beauty of nature, like two wild blades of grass growing freely in the cold wind by Wuthering Heights, and a love gradually blossomed between them. But one day, the old master died, and Hindley naturally became the new owner of the manor. In Hindley's eyes, Heathcliff was a fundamental mistake from the beginning. So, after inheriting the estate, Hindley's first act was to transform Heathcliff from a young master into a lowly servant, forcing him to sleep in the stables, humiliating him and beating him incessantly. But the more he was tormented, the deeper Heathcliff's love for Catherine grew, because Catherine never shunned him. Despite her brother's prohibitions, she found ways to be with the one she loved. For Heathcliff, Catherine was his entire world. With her, all the bitterness in his life was softened. He began to dream of the day they would marry and grow old together. But an unexpected event occurred, shattering that beautiful dream. Catherine received a marriage proposal from a nobleman from the neighboring estate, Edgar. Heathcliff discovered that the carefree and spirited Catherine he once knew, the one who could run and play freely with him in the fields, had now become a graceful and elegant lady. Although she was still cordial, she seemed afraid her beautiful dress would get dirty when he approached her. In that moment, Heathcliff understood that Catherine had changed. Even so, he held on to hope. For their bond of so many years, how could it be so easily shaken? Yet, Catherine accepted the proposal. The fatal blow for Heathcliff was when he accidentally overheard Catherine telling a servant that she would lose her social standing if she married him. The words struck him like a bolt from the blue. Agonized to the core, Heathcliff left immediately without hearing Catherine's subsequent confessions about the deep affection she held for him. That dark night, he was like a wounded beast, fleeing into the wilderness, vanishing without a trace. People often say the deeper you love, the more pain you endure. If one considers love everything, then loss is akin to dying 1,000 deaths. However, the problem isn't loving deeply. You can absolutely love someone profoundly and wholeheartedly. What causes us suffering is loving too absolutely. What is loving too absolutely? It's when you place your entire happiness, self-worth, and meaning of existence on a fragile scale, with another person at the other end. It gradually makes you cease to be an independent entity, instead becoming a satellite revolving around the other person's orbit. Your emotions fluctuate with their moods. When they are happy, you feel at ease. When they are distant, you collapse. You lose your own interests, your own time, and gradually your ego is eroded. Like Heathcliff, he loved Catherine too absolutely. To him, she was the sun, the air, the sole reason for the existence of an orphan child with no social standing. That's why he built his entire identity around Catherine. When love becomes absolute, it transforms into a form of dependency or complete possession. Heathcliff didn't love Catherine as a separate individual loving another separate individual. He loved her like a creature needing light for photosynthesis. Losing her meant destruction, it defined his very being. In real life, many people unconsciously absolutize love. When in love, people like to say or hear seemingly romantic phrases, but which are in fact full of constraints. You are my everything. I will never love anyone but her. Without you, I don't know how I'd survive. Only he understands me in this world. These are all signs that we are gradually losing our true independent selves. Love with all your heart, but don't lean towards absolutization. You need to return to balance so that love becomes a calm flow between two shores of self-reliance. True love never demands possession or dependency. You have your own world, your own career, your own friends, and together you build a richer, shared world. You are two independent trees, growing together under the sun, instead of a vine clinging tightly to another trunk. Let balance guide you, where you are a free and autonomous being in love. What truly torments you is that you keep living in the past. 3 years later, after leaving in utter devastation, Heathcliff returned to Wuthering Heights. But now, the lowly wretch of years past had become a wealthy and dignified gentleman. Catherine, meanwhile, was married to Edgar. Heathcliff's love for Catherine had never faded. However, seeing her happy with someone else, he couldn't accept it. Unable to possess her love, he fell into despair. In the labyrinth of his hurt, he blamed everyone and every memory from the past for the ruin of his life. The fire of hatred, starting small, grew in his own darkness. The first person he aimed his arrow of resentment at was Hindley, who had humiliated him and constantly kept him separated from Catherine. After his wife died, Hindley collapsed, falling into gambling. Heathcliff immediately exploited this weakness, finding people to conspire with at the card table. As predicted, Hindley's debts piled up, ultimately forcing him to sell Wuthering Heights to pay them off, which Heathcliff then bought. Having gained control of the manor, Heathcliff immediately treated Hindley and his son exactly as Hindley had once treated him, forcing them into servitude, treating them cruelly, and making them live with animals. As for Catherine, he continuously visited her in Edgar's estate, deliberately expressing his love and longing. Catherine's love for Heathcliff had always remained hidden deep within, so she was quickly stirred. From then on, the affection between her and her husband began to crack. But now Catherine was pregnant. She couldn't betray Edgar, so she tormented herself with her love for her old flame, unable to eat or sleep peacefully. At this time, Heathcliff deliberately flirted with Isabella, Edgar's sister, right in front of Catherine, as if to twist another knife into the heart of the woman he loved. Even more cruelly, Heathcliff tricked Isabella into eloping and marrying him, but then imprisoned her at Wuthering Heights, mercilessly beating her whenever he was displeased, simply because she was his rival's sister. Seeing Heathcliff madly hurting those around him, Catherine suffered a double spiritual torment. On one side was love, on the other was guilt. She couldn't bear the agony. Finally, not long after giving birth to her daughter, Cathy, she died of depression. Heathcliff thought revenge would reclaim everything, but what did he truly gain? Each time he sought revenge, he easily achieved his desired outcome. But in reality, the more pain he inflicted on others, the emptier his heart felt. There was no satisfaction, no malicious joy, only a vast darkness. And when Catherine died, he wept inconsolably as if his entire world had crumbled once more. Because he loved Catherine with such absolute attachment, when rejected, he hated. And when he hated, he sought revenge, believing he was master of all. But in reality, he was merely a prisoner of the past. This is an immutable law of life. Unresolved emotions will return to dominate us. The more we resist, the stronger they grow. The more we flee, the more they pursue. The truth is, many behaviors in life can turn us into smaller versions of Heathcliff. Instead of silently walking away after a relationship, we post cryptic statuses for an ex to see, or badmouth them to mutual friends, become excessively close with their best friend or family, flaunt a falsely perfect life, rush into a new relationship to prove to the ex, "I'm fine, and you should regret it." We even let ourselves fall into disrepair, using self-inflicted harm and punishment to make the other person feel guilty. We seek revenge in different ways with the secret hope that the other person's pain will soothe our own. But in reality, these are futile attempts to fill an inner void. They don't bring true peace. Instead, they worsen the wound, deepening the chasm within your heart. One thought can make you a Buddha, one thought can make you a devil. The mind is the source of all things. This saying is worth contemplating for a lifetime. Very often, your attitude towards past suffering, breakups, separations, or regrets will determine how you live your life. In truth, the past doesn't hold you back, you hold on to it. Someone has left, but you keep them alive in your heart. You eat and sleep with old memories, arguing with things that no longer exist. Ultimately, you're no longer hurting because of them, but because you refuse to leave the dark room you've locked yourself inside. Please remember that new happiness cannot enter a heart still filled with resentment from old lovers and past stories. Great wisdom is knowing how to let go. More than 10 years passed, yet Heathcliff had not escaped his grief. On the contrary, Catherine's death made him increasingly grim, extending his resentment to the next generation. His own son, Linton, was gravely ill, but he showed no concern, simply because he was the son born of Edgar's sister. As Linton's health deteriorated, Heathcliff saw him as a pawn to seize his rival's estate. He expended considerable effort to trick Cathy into coming to Wuthering Heights, then forced her to marry his son. Later, the moment Edgar died, Heathcliff immediately seized the manor. With Linton no longer useful, he barely glanced at his son, even as the boy lay dying. Heathcliff then turned to torment Cathy, burning all her beloved books and forcing her to do heavy servant's work. When he discovered that Cathy and Hareton, Hindley's son, had developed feelings for each other, Heathcliff used every cruel method to trample Hareton's self-esteem in front of Cathy. He believed this would make Hareton lose his dignity and, like himself years ago, lose love due to his lowly status. But Cathy didn't despise her beloved because of it. On the contrary, their hearts grew closer each day. For she loved and cherished Hareton's sincere nature. One day, Heathcliff unexpectedly saw Hareton and Cathy leaning their heads together, occasionally whispering and laughing softly. Their faces were happy and warm, as if they had never suffered any pain or torment. In that moment, Heathcliff recalled the days he had loved Catherine. The fire of hatred in his heart instantly vanished, and his heart softened. In that moment, the deep-seated resentments in his heart were silently released with each soft call of Catherine's name. Heathcliff stopped tormenting the young couple. Cathy and Hareton's love finally blossomed, and they lived happily ever after in their own way. Heathcliff spent his entire life imprisoning himself in resentment. In the end, he realized that what he truly wanted wasn't how much others had to pay, but simply a little affection to warm his heart. But that warmth only comes when one learns to let go. Plato once said, "If you are not happy, if you are not joyful, then let go." The greatest regret in life is letting go of what's worth holding on to and holding on to what should have been let go. How many people in this world are like Heathcliff, clinging to an old memory, a person who has left, a wound seemingly forgotten but still lodged in the heart for years? Sometimes the reason people feel unable to overcome a barrier is not because the barrier itself is too great, but because our own vision is too narrow. So narrow that we only see our own pain, not the wide sky behind it. Vision here means not just foresight, but also perspective on the past. If our vision stops at fragments of past memories or endlessly chases boundless ambitions, the heart will shrink. One rejection, one heartbreaking event, will be enough to plunge us into despair and exhaustion. But if you can broaden your own vision, you will see that many people and events that once seemed important enough to keep you awake at night are actually just fleeting roles and scenes in the long and vast journey of your life. Remember that it's all just experience. When you stand higher, you can see your life as if rewatching a film. There are beautiful scenes, painful scenes, people who come and people who go. But it all belongs to the great flow of life. No one can ruin the entire film unless you let them. Your greatest pain isn't the hurt caused by others, but your over-identification with that role. You believe you are that pain, that story defines you, when in reality you are merely the observer, not the character trapped in the tragedy. Step out. Learn to forgive, treat hurt with a compassionate attitude. As Oscar Wilde once said, "To forgive myself, I must forgive certain things." A pinch of salt in a cup of water will make it bitter and salty, but in a lake it will have no effect. Be a lake when you live in this world. If you are in love, let go of all desire to control. If you have just ended a relationship, learn to release the pain as if dropping a stone from your palm. Don't hold on to anything that no longer belongs to your journey. For the rest of our lives, may we not be dominated by mistakes or the rejections of others. Remove all burdens from your heart so the sunlight can illuminate the path ahead. Learn to love sincerely with all your heart without losing yourself. Learn to expand your vision without letting attachments to the past and desires for possession, control, or bondage take hold. Only then will love truly become a place where we grow, not where we lose ourselves. And a final message for you. When you can accept the flaws of others, that's when you can begin to love yourself. Please remember, in the end, you will understand that life arranges your encounters, placing you in relationships so that within those relationships, you learn to let go of all expectations of the other person. This is great wisdom and also one of the lessons you must overcome in this life.